Ursula von der Leyen has offered Britain the chance to break free of Brussels after Boris Johnson accused the EU of wanting to punish the country for refusing to comply with the bloc's rules. The European Commission hinted at a possible compromise in the battle over the level playing field for competition regulations. She said Britain would not need to be aligned with the EU's standards in the future, but a mechanism would be needed to address potential competitive advantages gained by either side. Mrs. von der Leyen told reporters, "We have repeatedly made clear to our UK partners that the principles of fair competition is a precondition to privileged access to the EU market. But this is not to say that we would require the UK to follow us every time we decide to raise our level of ambition." Boris Johnson is furious that the EU had introduced new demands late in the negotiations for the bloc to have the power to impose punishments such as sanctions tariffs on the UK for breaking possible future regulations. The Prime Minister said, "Clearly that is not the sensible way to proceed, and it's unlike any other free trade deal. It's a way of keeping the UK kind of locked in the EU's orbit, in their regulatory orbit." Hoping to address the Prime Minister's concerns, Mrs. von der Leyen insisted the bloc is ready to respect Britain as a sovereign state. She said, "They would remain free, sovereign. If you wish to decide what they want to do, we would simply adapt the conditions for access to our market according to the decision of the UK, and this would apply vice versa." Mrs. von der Leyen's intervention comes after she warned EU27 leaders that a no-deal Brexit is now the most likely outcome from the trade talks. She said the probability of a no-deal is higher than of a deal, according to an EU official. She told leaders the key sticking points, including the level playing field and fishing rights, would be difficult to reach agreements on. Mrs. von der Leyen said she would decide on Sunday whether a deal is possible or not. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said the bloc would compromise to get a Brexit trade deal over the line, but he called on Downing Street to do the same. He said the EU27 has dropped its demand for dynamic alignment and would explore options to manage the UK's divergence from the Brussels rulebook. Mr. Rutte said, "What we do need to have is that when there are too many differences in standards and applying regulations, so there is an unfair advantage for companies in Europe towards the UK, or from the UK towards Europe. In the spirit of managed divergence, you need to have this process laid out on how you deal with that. And this has nothing to do with trying to undercut UK sovereignty."